Instead of showing a blank screen, now let's render some screen when a room is created. For this we'll create a new component. Let's call it game container. I'll be using that RAFC template again. Now inside of this component I'll be showing my game room details. For that I'll be pasting this UI that I've already made to save some time. Let's comment out all these errors. Now let's ignore this error for now and go on. As I'll be showing my room details in this component, so I'll import my room here. So I need to use context, and I need to pass my game context here. Let's auto import game context, and I need to also import use context. Now as I'll be showing my room details, and in room we have various players, so I need to define a player state also. As we have saved our players like map in our game state in the server, so I'll be defining our players as an empty object here. I need to import use state also. Let's call my state as players, and the initial value would be an empty object. And import use state also. Now let's uncomment these lines. We also need to define a state to store the username of the player. Let's call it username. And the initial value would be an empty string. Let's now see what I have rendered in this return. First I am rendering the username of the player, then I am rendering the room ID of this current room, then I am showing this players list to show all my players in the game state. For that I am mapping over this keys of players array, and then I am showing this username for each of these players. Also, when room.session ID is equal to this player ID, means this is the current player which we are referring to. Then I'm giving it a special blue color via this class name. Let's see this in our browser. You can see this page. We have to enter our name here. Let's say player 1, and let's define this maximum players as 2. Now let's create our room. You can see player ID and players are not showing for now. Let's ignore it for now. Let's join another player by entering our room code and giving it a player 2 name. This player has also joined the room. Let's join another player. You can see the player is not able to join the room as the max player was 2, and now after 2 clients have joined the room has been locked, but we are not able to see these players and player ID. As we have not yet synchronized our client side state to our server side state. Now let's do that. Now as we want to re-render our states as soon as they are changed, so we should use effect for this purpose. So I'll be importing use effect. I'll be using an empty dependency array. For obvious reasons. And now when a player is added in the server, we need to add it here also inside in our client side. So room dot state dot players. Our players state is given a method called on add. It is given for every state that we have defined in our schema in the server side. It accepts a arrow function. The first parameter in this arrow function would be the new player that is being added. Let's call it player. And then the second parameter would be this current session ID. Now when the session ID is equal to this current room.session ID, means this is the current player that we are referring to. Then we should set our username with the name of this player. So set username with this player's username. And we also need to add this new player in the players map. in our game state. So set players, it will take previous value as the previous state of the players and then return the new state via this function. So previous value, and also this new player, this new key value pair would be session ID, and this new player object. This object would take username as this player's username, okay, as this whole thing would be returned as the new state, so I should enclose it all inside of parenthesis. Yes, the error is gone now. Let's now check it in the browser. Let's write the player name as player 1. Yes, the player name is showing here. Now let's join another player. Yes, both of these players are showing here with their respective names. Now you can go on with defining your own game logic and game mechanics as required.